Hello there. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my platform, MBRR Media, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Yep. Here for another drive time dialectic. And ironically, I just passed a Minnesota State Patrol trooper heading the opposite direction down a side street, so probably already looking for me. Lady Jen, thanks for being here. Steve Ladner, thanks for being here. Love that comment. Self-proclaimed heroes have lost public trust and respect by their own actions. I agree, and I cannot stand the fact that they get to label themselves heroes. I grew out of that mentality early in my time in the law enforcement world, and I refuse to be called a hero as a veteran too. So, in fact, most of the veterans I know refuse to take the label of hero. You're not a hero for putting on a uniform. You're not a hero for joining the military. You're not a hero for working in the public sector just because you work in the public sector. But anyway, so let's get some of the ancillary stuff out of the way since I started the stream a little early. I want to give a big shout out to the channel supporters, the show producers, the Angry Vet from here on YouTube. I have my Anonymous. She's done just some amazing amount of work supporting me in my efforts. She knows who she is. Big shout out also to IMAV for being over on Subscribestar at the show producer level. And I cannot thank you guys enough. My channel members, you guys are amazing. Thank you for being channel members. Those of you that cannot do the channel memberships or things like Subscribestar, you all are very important to me. Every single viewer matters. Every single comment matters. Everything that every like that you give the video, all of that, it all freaking matters. And if you tuned into my conversation with Detective Matt Thornton the other day, I talked a little bit about how I kind of get to the place sometimes where I don't know that I want to keep going. I've invested so much in this and given up so much, and run the risk on a daily basis of losing everything because of what I gave up, that sometimes it's just hard to keep going, but every single one of you helps me stay in the game. So thank you very much. STD, thanks for being here. I hope that you guys will pay very close attention to what we're going to be talking about today, because I did bring this up in my conversation with Detective Matt the other day. I knew the fullness of the story on Saturday, but I was not free to disconnect and unchain myself and talk about what I knew. But the news is breaking through mainstream media, and they are, of course, joining with the Minnesota State Patrol and the Dakota County Attorney's Office and the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office and painting this out in a very, very, very pro-law enforcement way, and doing everything they can to make the older gentleman in this situation the bad guy. So as many of you, actually a lot of you may not know, because I've picked up quite a few new subscribers and people who haven't been able to pay as much attention. By the way, have you noticed how quiet the car is? I got it fixed the other day, and I just want to give a shout out to Greg Millarton from Matt's Auto and Body in my hometown of Spring Valley. Phenomenal service down there, by the way. So big shout out. If you're anywhere in southeast Minnesota, reach out to Matt's Auto and Body in Spring Valley. They do great work, and they are wonderful local businesses. So anyhow, I have been covering the story of the Mostad family, in particular Blake and Braxton, since a week or two after April 9th, when a family member had run across some of my coverage of other stories, especially like Trooper Shane Roper, who did needlessly and recklessly wife of Olivia Flores on May 18th of 2024. Family member of Blake reached out and said, "Hey, I've seen your coverage and just wanted to share this story with you." And that story, of course, involves a wrong-way driver who, now the story's out, he's 71 years old, he's over the age of 70, was driving the wrong way on Highway 10, I think it was Highway 10 here in Minnesota, and turned to get off the highway in front of Blake as he was driving the right way down the road and caused a very minor accident. In the interim, as this accident was taking place, other people had already called the wrong way driver in and had been trying to get law enforcement there. Well, as the accident takes place, Trooper Ryan Moeser from the Minnesota State Patrol is traveling at an incredibly high rate of speed down the highway and comes across the accident and plows into the accident on the road. It's April 9th, folks. It's not like it's, middle of the night. It's later evening, 8:30, 9-ish, and paralyzes Blake Mosted from the neck down and does injure several other people, to include himself. And since then, the amount of communication from law enforcement in the state of Minnesota and from investigators and prosecutors that has been directed towards Blake and his family has been minuscule. They've released no details. They've not talked to the family at all. They've made no effort to communicate anything about the investigation. Well, as of, I want to say it was Friday of last week, the Dakota County Attorney's Office, who took over the investigation and charging decisions to avoid any conflict of interest, announced, after sitting on this for a month, so we're over 3 months removed from the accident, announced that they will not be charging Trooper Ryan Moeser with any criminal offenses. Instead, they are charging the wrong way driver with all of the crimes. Now, that sounds like justice until you really sit back and think about this. This 71-year-old man did cause an accident, but it's not the accident. The accident that he caused is not the accident that almost took Blake's life. It's not the accident that paralyzed Blake from the neck down. It's not the accident that has ruined Blake's dreams, if you will, and forever altered him in ways that none of us can possibly imagine. We could somewhat think about what it would be like to be confined to a wheelchair or to a bed for the rest of your life with no use of your hands or your arms or your legs. We could somewhat think about what it would be like, maybe just on a small minuscule level, to not have full use of your lungs and run the risk of having to go into intensive care as you're in recovery because your lungs, your body can't cough to clear the mucus out of your lungs, and so then you have to go into the hospital. This is Blake's life. As of right now, this is Blake's life forever. The older gentleman, wrong way driver, a 71-year-old man, is not responsible for that accident. He did not cause that damage to Blake. Trooper Ryan Moeser caused that damage to Blake. And rest assured that had it been you or I that ran into that accident at that rate of speed, that, as it's now been officially announced, he couldn't see on a flat road with no curves going in a straight line, he could not see the accident, is what they're stating. They're saying that this trooper was driving in such a way that he could not see the accident that he plowed into. And then to make matters worse, Blake's vehicle was hidden in behind the wrong way driver's vehicle when the trooper plowed into it. So 3+ months of covering for this trooper, 3+ months of this trooper sitting at home on paid administrative leave, having a gay old time, partying and going out fishing or hunting or whatever it is that he does for his personal entertainment. 3 months of investigation that none of us would have gotten, by the way. If that had been you the night of that accident, you would have been in cuffs. The charging decisions would have been made immediately. There would have been no dragging of the feet. If you're the one who was driving down the highway at such a high rate of speed that you couldn't see this accident and stop in time, you would have gotten the blame. There would have been no blame or charges for the wrong way driver in this situation. They're charging him with 8 counts of criminal vehicular operation, resulting in severe or grave bodily harm. And they're also, if I read it correctly, and I could be wrong, I'm still waiting on all the facts to come out, but they're now claiming that he admitted to being under the influence of chemicals. That chemical that he was under is a prescribed medication, tradazone. I'm not saying it right. I'm very upset today. Now, maybe he did take it. Maybe it is in his system. 71 years old. Probably not making good decisions. But does he deserve to have his life ruined? What's left of his life at the age of 71 ruined by being charged with these extremely severe charges? It's criminal charges. These are criminal charges. A 71-year-old man facing severe criminal charges for an accident that the trooper caused. The trooper caused the accident, and they're saying that had it not been for him driving the wrong way down the road and causing the first accident, the trooper wouldn't have had to cause the second accident. Therefore, the trooper's off the hook. Folks, let that shit sink in. Let that sink in. Wrong way driver admittedly caused first accident. The wrong way driver should fairly, decently, and understandably be charged for causing that accident. That accident, the initial accident, he should be charged for that. If there's trazodone in his system, and he admitted it apparently, he should be charged for that. If he was actually impaired, he should be charged for that. But should he be charged for the damages, and when I mean charged, I mean criminally charged, should he be charged for the accident that the trooper caused? And I want you guys to imagine how fast you have to be going in that situation to not see an accident in the middle of the road. What level of speed, what rate of speed, what level of distraction are you having to engage in? It's mind-blowing to me the lengths that the injustice system across the United States, but in particular in the state of Minnesota, the lengths that the injustice system will go to build a wall of protection around one of their own. Now, I'm working on, through a researcher and others, we're working on getting the dash cam video and any body cam video. We're working on getting all the reports. We're working on getting all of the interviews. We're working on getting any audio that we can get. We're working on all of that. I wish I could tell you that I'm prepared to be able to pay that out of my pocket. What you guys, if you've never done anything like this, what you don't know is how much they charge for this stuff. It's not just freely available to you when you do the request. They charge you for the data, and they also charge you for the labor of collecting the data. In a case like this that's been investigated for over 3 months, we're probably looking at $500 to $1,000 or more in fees to get the dash cam, the body cams, the interviews, the reports. It's absolutely asinine what they make the general public go through to be able to get their hands on the data that is ours. That data belongs to us. It belongs to us. That's our data. So if any of you are interested in helping, you can, with cost, if a bunch of us could get together, when I know what the cost is going to be, I wouldn't ask anybody to, just send me money. I mean, if you want to, send super chats or anything like that, that's great. But I'm not asking anybody to just send me, just money randomly. But if you're interested in taking part in paying for that, when I get that data and I start to release it, you will get credit as being a producer of those particular episodes. But we need to get our hands on the dash cams and the body cams. We need to know how fast that trooper was going. See, Minnesota State Statute 169.17 makes it very clear that law enforcement in particular is free to violate traffic codes in response to an emergency. They are that, and I. Is it working at all? Is it working at all? Probably not. Probably should just end it. Anything? Did it all just drop off? Oh, so okay, so I'm back. So I don't know what happened. Sorry about that, folks. It's a YouTube issue. They do things like that from time to time. As I was saying, I really do hope that Trooper Ryan Moeser is getting no sleep. I hope that he's having terrible nightmares. I hope that he is unable to do his job, that he's losing his ability to be fit for duty, and that he ends up having to leave such a position as Minnesota State Patrol Trooper. I hope he can never work in law enforcement the rest of his life. And that's I mean that. I know that sounds mean. I know that sounds bitter. It's because I think that's what he deserves. I think he deserves to never work. He deserves to never have a normal life again. That's what he deserves. Ryan Moeser deserves to not have a normal life. Because what he did to Blake did not just impact Blake. It impacted all of Blake's family. It impacted all of Blake's friends. And those are going to ripple out for eternity. So I hope that now that Dakota County has exonerated him and pinned this all on the wrong way driver, and they're going to do their level best to ruin the life of a 71-year-old man who made a simple mistake, but they're going to destroy what's left of that 71-year-old man's life, try to throw him in prison to keep the heat off of Moeser. I hope that Moeser, every time he gets behind the wheel of a car, every time that he closes his eyes and lays his head down to go to sleep at night, that he can't sleep, that he's plagued with nightmares. I really do. I hope that. And I speak for myself. I don't speak for anyone else. These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. This is nobody else's opinion. No one's told me that that's what they want. This is me. This is TC speaking. I hope that you, Ryan Moeser, lose your mind, are incapacitated and incapable of working in this career field or any other career field for the rest of your life. That's what I want for you. Because we know you are never going to apologize. We know that you are never going to reach out your hand to Blake Mostad and say, I'm sorry. Because if you do that, you're admitting that you did wrong. And everyone from the Dakota County Attorney's Office to the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office to the Sherburne County Attorney's Office to the Minnesota State Patrol to the the Colonel of the Minnesota State Patrol, Christina Bakovic. You all know, every single one of you knows what he did. You all know what he did. You all know what happened. And you are going to pin it on a 71-year-old man. This is likely to kill that old man. He didn't paralyze Blake. He didn't do harm to Blake. Trooper Ryan Moeser did. Trooper Moeser hurt Blake. Not this 71-year-old wrong-way driver. And folks, if you're out there and you're watching this and you're maybe in that back to blue at all costs crowd, or back to blue, or back to badge, or thin blue line family, or whatever the case might be, and you're looking at this and saying, well, if that guy hadn't been driving the wrong way, none of this would have happened. No arguments. No arguments. But when are you going to wake up and realize, when are you going to start to come to the realization that this only was allowed to drag out as long as it did because of who was involved? That had this been anybody but Trooper Ryan Moeser, if this had been any other civilian without a badge, there would have been no 3-month investigation. There would have been no effort to try and determine who to pin it on, because they would have charged both parties. They would have charged the trooper, and they would have charged both drivers for what happened. But they needed 3+ months to figure out a way to cover this up, to spin it. And they knew that they had to charge somebody, but they weren't going to charge Trooper Ryan Moeser. They knew that. They knew they weren't going to charge Ryan Moeser. So they had to do something. They had to charge someone. So the only other person to charge that wasn't going to result in massive uproar or outrage is the 71-year-old wrong-way driver, who ultimately didn't cause the damage that nearly ended Blake's life. This is pure cover-up, folks. This is pure covering. This is pure building that thick blue wall. This is circling the wagons. And this is why people are turning on law enforcement in the United States, across the entire country. This is why hashtag back the blue until it happens to you is becoming so commonplace now. As I talked to Bailey, Blake's older sister, a few weeks back, she was there. She was a back the blue person, and she admitted now she looks cross-eyed at cops now when she sees them. I've heard from so many of the family members. So many of the family members who are now don't trust cops. They don't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. And why should they? Why should they? I dare anybody to go to Minnesota Revisor's Minnesota State Statute 169.17 and look it up and read that and tell me how an accident caused by a state trooper driving so fast that he couldn't see an accident, couldn't stop in time, couldn't swerve to avoid it, couldn't put his own life at risk, couldn't take a ditch, couldn't swerve off the road in time, how he was driving so fast that he couldn't do any of those things. Doesn't violate 169.17. How does that not violate 169.17? Oh, so I guess I don't get to use my driveway the way I... I'm gonna wrap it up here, folks. I don't know what happened to why there was so much dead space for you guys. I apologize. It's a damn YouTube technology thing. I'll go in and have to delete that section out, but I just want everybody to think about what's going on and ask yourselves how you would feel if this was your family member and you know full well that it was a law enforcement officer that caused the actual accident that did all the damage. And then tell me how you would feel in this situation. Tell me that you wouldn't shift from back to blue until it happens to you. I hope you lift up Blake and his family in your prayers. If you're praying people, send warm thoughts, whatever the case might be. And I will talk to you guys very soon. So until next time, I'll Sic Semper Tyrannis.